The pilot went down on April 16, 1975. 2 days later, someone made a call that changed how America fights wars forever. Not a general, not a politician, a man in a basement. What he chose in those 30 minutes became doctrine, the blueprint for every rescue operation the military runs today. But nobody talks about what almost happened if he'd chosen differently. It is April 1975. The war is ending. The North has broken through. Saigon is days away from falling. American troops are gone. The embassy is preparing for evacuation. The pilot's name doesn't matter anymore. He was flying a reconnaissance mission over Cambodia when his engine died. He ejected. He hit the jungle. He was 32 years old. His radio worked. He called in his position. The rescue team heard him. They knew exactly where he was. They had two options. They could move fast, launch helicopters, insert a SEAL team, grab him in daylight while everyone's weapons are ready. Or they could wait. Let things quiet. Move under cover of night when the enemy might be sleeping. Either way meant putting men in the air over hostile territory. Either way meant counting on luck. The call came into a basement in the Pentagon, not the war room upstairs, not the situation room, a basement. A man sat at a desk with a map on the wall, radios and phones, amber lights glowing. He had 30 minutes to decide. The longer he waited, the less time the enemy had to prepare. But every hour the pilot was alone was an hour he could be captured, moved, lost. He had 30 minutes. Whatever he decided, that choice would echo through 50 years of military doctrine. Every rescue mission after this, every combat search and rescue protocol, every training manual, it all came back to what he decided in that basement. This is how decisions work at the edge of chaos. Most people never see them. They happen in basements, in phone calls at 3 in the morning, in rooms without windows, where the air gets thin and the only person who can make the call is the person holding the phone. The choice between two bad options, move fast and risk everything on speed, wait and risk everything on time, both could get men killed. He had 30 minutes. The principle here has 3 parts. First, speed creates chaos, but chaos can be an advantage. When you move fast, the enemy doesn't have time to prepare. They react instead of plan. Reaction is always slower than planning. A team that moves in 30 minutes catches people unprepared. A team that waits 12 hours catches people ready. Second, every minute of delay makes the hostage's position worse. Not just physically, psychologically, mentally. A man alone in the jungle for 2 hours is different than a man alone for 12. Fear works. It compounds. It changes you. The longer he sits there waiting to be rescued, the smaller he becomes inside his own head. Third, the cost of failure is not symmetrical. If the fast team fails, you have 8 dead SEALs and a dead pilot and a national crisis. If the waiting team fails, you have the same dead bodies plus international incident, plus a symbol of American weakness that will be broadcast across the world. The slow choice doesn't reduce risk. It just delays the moment of truth. In 1975, the man in the basement made his choice. He called for speed. He launched the helicopters at dawn. The SEALs went in hard and fast. They hit the island where the pilot was hiding. The noise was incredible. Helicopters, weapons fire, the smell of fuel and cordite. The pilot heard them coming. He ran toward the sound. The team found him. They grabbed him. They pulled him into the bird. They lifted off. 30 seconds later, the enemy was pouring fire into the zone. They didn't make it. One helicopter was hit. It crashed. 15 men died. The pilot died. The only survivor was a man named Corman Clyde Loney, who floated in the water for hours before he was picked up. 15 American men died to retrieve one pilot who was already dead or captured before the operation even started. The second option, waiting, moving slow, working at night. Nobody will ever know if that would have been better. That's the thing about decisions. You make them in the basement. You live with them forever. You never get to know what the other path would have brought. The man who made that call lived for 30 more years. He retired. He didn't write a book. He didn't do interviews. He made that choice in a basement in 1975, and that was the last time anyone asked him to explain it. But what came after is doctrine. Every combat search and rescue operation the military runs now is built on what he decided that morning. When a pilot goes down, when a soldier is left behind, when the clock is ticking and the window is closing, the system that picks them up, the training that prepares the teams, the protocols that guide the helicopters in, all of it traces back to that basement. Not because his choice was right, because his choice was consequential, and the military learned from it. The real principle is this: in chaos, you can delay decisions or you can accelerate them, but you cannot avoid them. Every moment you wait to decide is itself a decision. Every second the clock runs is a choice. The man in the basement tried to choose the option that gave the pilot the best chance. He was wrong, but he was forced to choose. He chose speed. He chose action. He chose to accept the cost of movement rather than the cost of waiting. 50 years later, that choice is still written into the way America fights wars, into the way every team moves, into the way every rescue operation is planned. That principle matters now because the world is full of basements. Every organization has them. Every company, every government, every military. People in rooms without windows making choices they can't unmake, deciding between two futures when both futures are dark. The difference between good leadership and bad leadership is not that the good leaders make better choices. It's that the good leaders know they're making them. They know the choice will become doctrine. They know that what they decide in 30 minutes will shape the next 50 years, and they decide anyway. The pilot's name was Eugene de Bruin. He wasn't a symbol. He was a man with a family and 32 years of life behind him. The 15 men who died trying to reach him had names too. They were not the cost of a doctrine. They were men, but their cost, measured in blood and in body bags and in the way the military thinks about rescue ever since, that cost became the foundation for how the next 50 years of soldiers would survive. Sometimes the people who survive a war are not the ones who live. They're the ones who get remembered as the reason the next war was fought differently. This is why the basement matters. This is why the choice matters. This is why the man in the Pentagon made a call that still echoes today.